Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Tom. He's the co-founder of Virtual World Society. He's an adventurer, a professor, and most of us know him as the godfather of VR and just one of the nicest people that you're going to meet. And so I'm going to turn it over to you now, Tom.
Oh, you're so sweet, Donna. What's your doggy's name?
Megs.
Megs. Okay. Well, hopefully
Megs.
Megs
M-A-G-S. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Megs
We need to have an avatar by your feet of Megs.
The very interesting thing is for all of you pet owners, when your pets bark, your lips move, and that people find that enormously hilarious. So.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome family. I mean, we feel like we're all family here. We're sort of joined at the hip or whatever it is by the ether, but our hearts are here together. And what a great way to kick off the year, because we have as our special guest this handsome guy. Alvin Graylin. Alvin, I've known Alvin for many, many years. He'll probably talk about the first days when we got to know each other. But Alvin, of course, is the president of HTC China. Now, China is a big country, and he's the president of the HTC part of it, which is pretty much most of the country, right? And so so this is really a thrilling thing. It's a special event. I'm honored to have Alvin, and Alvin is taking time. He's packed his bags. He's getting ready to head for Beijing tomorrow. Well, not Beijing, but to you're going to Shanghai. Shanghai, right? Shanghai, and then he's going to have to quarantine for about 21 days before he can get out in public, as it were. But he's taken this time to be with us. So let's get started. What we're going to do is as we have in the past, this is all about having some fun and getting to know Alvin, this great man, and certainly a great proponent and evangelist, and in the VR space, XR space. But we're going to get to know him a little bit better than just the technology stuff, and find out about what makes him tick, hopefully, as much as we can, and sort of advice he might have for us, and maybe questions that he may want to ask you. So let's start off, Alvin. I mean, you must have been an annoying kid to your parents, right? I mean, you were interested in a lot of things. Why don't you tell us what you were like as a kid?
I was actually the opposite. I was the good kid in the family. So my brother was the wild and crazy one that was always out and riding motorcycles and playing in a rock band. So I was the good kid. Wait, I think I need to turn on my megaphone. Is that right? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, I guess I've been kind of very engrossed in technology since I was young, and the reason was because wait, let's go off here. What? Something's wrong. Sorry. Let me. Okay. There you go. So when I was young, I actually was born in China, but we immigrated to the U.S. when I was 8, and my parents pretty much said, "Hey, you know, we're actually both educators, so." You know, like we don't have a lot of money. You know, they're both artists and educators. One was a professor of art, and the other one was a founder of the Beijing and the Shanghai Ballet School, the Shanghai and the Guangdong Ballet School. But they said, you know, we brought you to the States, and you know, we're giving you an opportunity. Really make use of it. Go study art and get good grades. And we don't have money for college, so you get a scholarship. So that's kind of what drove my brother and I. We both studied very hard and both got scholarships to go to school. So I actually was the better kid in terms of more focus on academics. But but I, you know, since I was about probably 9, I started really enjoying technology because my uncle is a PhD in chemical engineering. And he got us interested in looking at computers during one of our summer breaks, and so we had an opportunity to be introduced to programming, and after that, I really understood the value of technology to to do things that we couldn't do with our hands, right? So, my brother and I both kind of saved up our money from our paper route and bought our first computer and started to learn how to program and get involved in technology. And I haven't left it since. So I think it's technology has been a real passion for me. And actually, when we first met was in 1991. It's 30 years ago. I can't believe how fast the time has gone, and being part of your hit lab was what really got me interested in VR and the potential of VR. I remember going to your class and just being amazed at what this technology can do and what the potential of it could do. I remember in my paper from your lab, I remember saying, in 10 years, every school is going to be using this stuff to educate. It's going to be everywhere, and it's going to change the world. That was the conclusion from my paper. I think I'm just about 20 years late from my prediction, but I think it is coming, and it's coming very soon. Yeah, and I think what's happened over the last year is going to accelerate it. Right? All the stuff that's happening with COVID and the distance learning, it can only get better. It can only get better in VR, and so I'm very optimistic.
So, Alvin, let me stop you here for a second, and maybe you could re-enter for us.
Yes.
You're getting a little garbled, and what we're going to do is plan the conspiracy while you're away. So if you want to don't want much conspiracy, you better be gone shortly. It's a short.
Okay. All right. Let me get out.
As soon as he disappears. Okay, now's our opportunity.
Everybody,
you guys. Hi. What you need to do is get ready to ask him some juicy questions, okay? And this is especially when we come to the question time, and he's going to probably ask you some questions too. So just be ready to spring some good stuff on him, okay?
Yep.
All right. So glad that all you can be here. Again, this is a spring to a new year. 2021 is going to be incredible. And the virtual society is, I'm excited to say, is we're really growing with the help of educators in VR and others. It's an exciting time for us. And in the next few weeks, we'll be telling you some wonderful things going on. Actually, in 2 weeks' time, I'll go ahead and spill the beans a little bit on this. During this time, we're going to have a community event that Caitlin Kraus is going to be conducting. And Caitlin, Caitlin's over here in the audience. Why don't you pop up front here a little bit so people can see what Caitlin looks like? Here's Caitlin. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I hope my audio is working well. We had an earthquake in California today, so.
Ooh, really?
Experiencing the earthquake. Yeah, we had about a 3.8 a few.
Oh wow.
Just about an hour ago. So
Alvin's back.
hopefully
Yeah.
you can hear me. We'll talk about the event in 2 weeks. There's a slide up for it, so I'm gonna say welcome back to Alvin and I think you both are on megaphone right now, but I'm excited about this event on the 28th as the next thing happening.
Yeah. So make sure you're on a megaphone, Alvin, and on air.
I am on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
Nice and
okay,
clear.
great.
Yep.
Okay, so you finished up talking about when we met and that you had predicted in 10 years' time in your paper in my class, that VR was going to be full of education. I mean, all the classrooms would have VR.
Yes,
and,
I know.
But we're going to get back to that in a minute. But so here you had you were the good kid, and you were the smart kid, and you got the scholarships. And you went to the University of Washington. Graduated in electrical engineering, right?
Yeah.
And then tell us what happened then.
Well, and then I actually went to Intel to do chip design. So I actually worked on the next generation Pentium with the MMX chip for about a year, and doing kind of next generation architectural design. We created the MMX multimedia instruction set that was, at the time, was really a big deal. and then after that, I actually got picked to go help start the China office for Intel. So that was actually quite exciting because it was kind of the Wild West or the Wild East, I guess. When I got there, there was really no computers around. Nobody, just to get a phone line, you had to order a month in advance to get our phone line in our office. There was essentially zero users of computers back in, this was 1994, outside of businesses, right? And so I was in charge of saying, how can we bring computers into the home? And so I started this program called the Multimedia Home PC program, and we went and created a standardized software set and motherboards and got the prices down so that the average consumer can use it. And then we worked with all of the local manufacturers to create low-cost PCs. At the time, the average PC was about $2,000 to $3,000 US. By the time I left, which was 3 years later, the average PC that was being sold to the home was about $500. Wow. So it really allowed the whole internet and home PC to take off. In fact, Lenovo, which was the company that bought IBM, so the company who bought IBM, the guys there didn't really want to do PCs. They had this one PC department had 3 people, and right now the chairman of Lenovo was the department manager of the PC department, and I convinced him to make a consumer multimedia PC. Within 3 years, they were the #1 PC manufacturer in China. So wow. That was kind of there was the exciting days of the early days of the internet and the early days of PC in China. After that, I came back to the States for about a year, and then I got an opportunity to go to MIT to get my double master's degree there, and I actually got another scholarship. So that was scholarships has been a big help to me. So. So I did a double master's in computer science and business there, and studied operations, entrepreneurship, and marketing, and also did my AI studies at MIT as well. So that was, and then after that I did 4 different venture-backed startups, 1 in the U.S. and then 3 in China. About 10 years went by, and in 2015 I sold my last company and was recruited to go join HTC. So that's how I kind of came into my role, because I talked to HTC to Cher, who's the chairman of HTC, and we both really saw the potential of the technology to do good for society well beyond gaming. At the time, it was really all about gaming. And when I talked to her, I said, I'll join, but I want to make sure that we're not just going to be a gaming company. And she said, no, absolutely not. We're all about unleashing the power of this technology to open up the imagination, capabilities, potential of society and of people. And that's what really got me interested to join the company.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly you have made, I think there was a survey done in China about the recognition of people who've been prominent in the VR or XR industry throughout the whole country. And I think you
yes.
came out on top. You came out on top.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's probably a 3rd or 4th year now that I've been they call it the most influential person in VR in China. But it's a small community, so I don't know how much that really means.
Well, China's not small, but
yeah.
But the VR community,
yes.
is growing certainly.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's great, Alvin. Well, now throughout all these years, as you know, you've been working on it a long time. I've been working on it for a little bit longer time.
Yes.
We've always been looking for the so-called killer application. Now, don't miss. That term we shouldn't use anymore. But we don't want to kill people in VR. But the idea, what is going to be the application really takes it to the tipping point, where everybody finally recognizes, wow, this is great stuff. How can we really move along with that particular killer application? So all this time now, you've been thinking about that. What do you think now, looking at the situation, is or has been the killer application all along?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, any new technology that gets created, the applications that becomes a killer application isn't necessarily a brand new thing that nobody thought of before. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
in my view, it's really about doing things that you've already been doing, but doing it better, smoother, more efficiently, more cheaply, whatever. Right. So we wrote letters and documents before Microsoft Word came along, right? We made phone calls and did spreadsheets before Excel came along and iPhone came along and whatever. So it's all the things that communication, education, collaboration are the things that we do as human beings, and we're going to continue to do that. And I think in VR, it's really about making those things that we already do smoother, allowing it to communicate in a more fuller way, allowing us to get rid of this distance gap that we're all facing every day because of what's happening with COVID and the lack of travel. Allowing us to have meetings like this so that we don't have to be in the same room. We don't have to worry about our health, but we don't lose anything in the communication. In fact, just yesterday, our company had our all company town hall meeting in VR, and there's other staff and executives I haven't seen for an entire year. We used to have this every year in China and Taiwan, and thousands of people would get together. To have it where you go up to friends that you haven't seen for a year and have that conversation, I think that's really right now the initial killer app of VR. What we're doing today is the initial killer app of VR, is that it allows us to communicate and feel like we're in one place, even though we're physically apart, right? And now I think in every industry there's going to be things that they will already do as well. If you're a doctor and now you can practice surgery and not be risking your patients and become an expert in what you do, great. That's a killer app for the medical industry. If you're in architecture and now you can design and visualize what you've been wanting to do without putting bricks down, that saves a lot of money and time. That's the killer application, right? So it's all the things that every industry has their own killer app. I don't think there's going to be one killer app that everybody goes to. I know everybody's saying, oh, what's the game that's going to be the killer app? I actually don't believe a single game will be the killer app. Although, games like Half-Life Alyx, I definitely enjoyed it. Last year, I spent a lot of hours in there. But, when you're done with that 20-hour game or 15-hour game, you're done. You're not going to go back and do it every day, right? The things that are killer apps are things that we will do we will come back to. And I think that's what we need to look at it. What are the things that we are spending time in our daily lives doing, and how can VR make those things? That will be the killer app for us. It may not be the same killer app for somebody else. Somebody else may like fishing, and they could go fishing in VR anytime, right? but they may do it every day, right? And so it's really up to every individual what they care about. But I think communication and collaboration is definitely something that is universal across all humans.
Well, certainly it's exciting that we're seeing this emergence of these different applications, and like you say, it's not just one killer app, and perhaps even then we don't even know what the emergence is going to be. I mean, this is a grand experiment. There may be something that emerges that we hadn't even thought of right now that would be there. But it's an exciting journey nevertheless. Now, one of the issues is as we think about the distribution and the uptake of this technology is certainly access. Access to the equipment, access to the bandwidth to get the equipment to operate. What is your thinking now as what do you see are the deficiencies that we have now in getting widespread use of the technology?
I think that's a question or a challenge that we are facing as an industry every single day. Is we need more people to be in this devices to be able to have this industry really take off. And I have to give Oculus a lot of credit. They've done a great job in bringing the prices down for the devices. The Quest is at $300. Great, it's an amazing price point for a very very high quality device. I think they're able to do that because they have a different revenue model behind it, where they can subsidize with advertising and other things. So I think it's something that is helping. But not everybody necessarily wants to essentially trade off information or privacy for price. So I think there will need to be additional products that will come out from other vendors. And so I know that in fact just in China alone there are in the price point of the Oculus products, but they haven't really made their way out to the US yet. So I think that will probably start to happen over time. One of the things that we've been working on over the last few years is something called the Wave ecosystem, or the Wave platform, where we essentially create the runtime, the store, the SDKs, the accessories, and we essentially donated to all the lower cost manufacturers, so they can get faster time to market with a high quality product, and without having to go through their own R&D. All right, so this is kind of our philosophy, is that right now we're not trying to hoard anything. We want to be as open as possible. Our app store supports everybody's devices, right? And our the companies that we invest in, we do not limit them at all to work with any of our other industry players. So I think that's something that we're trying to do to help make this this accessibility that you're talking about happen faster. In fact, just last December or November, we just announced with China Mobile, we're going to create a China nationwide standard called the General Standard of XR Technology. So it's GSXR. It's going to be essentially part or compatible with the open XR standards of the West, and something that we're going to give away all of these development and capabilities to both the hardware and software vendors to allow for cross compatibility, as well as for an increased speed of going to market for the vendors. And in fact, China Mobile and all the other Chinese carriers, though China Telecom and Unicom, have all agreed to uphold by this standard, and will distribute devices based on this standard. So that allows for that accessibility, at least in China, that you're talking about over the next couple of years. I imagine we're going to get products in the kind of $200, $300, $400 price point without requiring people to give up privacy.
Wow. Okay, that's wonderful, because that's of course one of the concerns that comes along with the issue of this low cost subsidized technology that we see from Facebook, Oculus, and so forth. And certainly that issue is one of the big ones. Now, do you see any other concerns, privacy or ethnographic, not ethnographic, but ethical concerns about the widespread use of the technology?
Well, I mean, with any powerful technology, it's always a two-edged sword, as you know, right? I mean, you have cars who take you around, but they also cause millions of people getting killed every year in the vehicle. Or you have nuclear power, and you have nuclear arms. So, and anything that has the ability to do good will also have an equal ability to potentially do harm. So it's really up to us as the influencers in this space to kind of guide it in the right way, and guide usage of it, and create certain types of moral and usage standards. At the end of the day, this technology is as close to the perfect device to change people's minds, or to educate as well as to change minds as possible, until you get to kind of the neural link of being able to download programs to your brain directly. VR is going to be that kind of device. So if it's being used to influence or to teach people positive data, it's a very helpful product and technology. If it's used to give people the wrong messages, then it could be a potentially negative influence, right? It's kind of what's happening today with Twitter and Facebook and all these companies and how they're creating these information bubbles could be magnified 10x if you did it in VR, where people can be indoctrinated into whatever philosophy wants to be pushed. So we really, as the stewards of this technology, really need to see how we can help keep that from happening, right? So having the same kind of protection that a TV broadcast stations have in terms of the content that should be available and so forth. So I think that's something we need to think about, and it will take probably a lot of government involvement and regulatory involvement to maintain that, so it does not become something that creates a negative impact. There will always be some people that misuse it, right? And I think the other thing that could be a potential risk is potential addiction, right? People play games to escape from the real world. People, watch TV to escape from the real world. I think VR will again take it to the next level. So if you're, if you're in a virtual VR world or virtual VR society, or virtual VR game, or something that is better than your real world, you're going to spend a lot of time there, and our brains are designed to be attracted to things that make us excited, makes us feel value and status. And so a lot of times you can get these things in a virtual environment that you can't get in the real world, which may create that escapism that some people have talked about. So I really hope we find a way to deal with that and keep that from happening as well. I mean, if you go back and look at the Ready Player One book, one of the things I really liked about it was that they had later in the book talking about how they installed some safeguards where you cannot use it for more than 10 hours or so many hours. You have to use for an hour or two before you could play a game again or go back into the VR world. Maybe we need to put those kind of safeguards in. Maybe we at least allow parents to be able to do that to kids who may not know better how to do that. So those are the kind of things that we need to think about, both as manufacturers and both as kind of influencers in this space.
Well, you had something to do with the interaction between the Vive or the HTC Vive and Ready Player One, didn't you? I mean, you were involved with the filmmakers themselves. When that came about. Tell us about that.
It was kind of I guess an odd coincidence. I do I had some interactions with the CEO of Warner Brothers before joining HTC, and then when I found out that they were doing the movie, I got in touch with them and asked if we could work with them on the project. And we actually started doing some things initially with Harry Potter, but then that project didn't work as well. But the Ready Player One movie, we essentially signed a contract with them as the official VR partner for them, and they gave us all of the VR assets, all of the 3D models and the avatars, which were terrible stuff. In fact, they were too detailed. We couldn't even use a lot of it because they were so detailed that we had to downscale it so much that it was easier just to recreate a lot of it. But we made a very full game from those assets with 6 different third-party partners that we have funded to create it. So in fact, that the Ready Player One game is available on Blackboard. I think we've also put it on Steam and some other stores as well. And it's a free app, so please do try it. And then in fact, the movie itself was made devices. Steven Spielberg put on the device, went into the VR world and shooting it, and directed the actors using in a VR set. And so we were both involved in the production as well as in the commercialization promotion of the film that came out. So that's really exciting. Yeah. In fact, I think we also were part of the South by Southwest initial party that they had, the launch party at South by Southwest, where the lead actor was doing a DJ session in Wave VR, which was at our booth in South by Southwest. So it's definitely, it was a fun experience working with the filmmakers.
Oh, you're a rock star. That's amazing. How fun.
Yeah, so I was really optimistic about the film helping to bring mass awareness for this technology, right? Because I think what you said earlier made it was one of the key issues we're all facing as an industry is that a lot of people heard of VR, but they don't know what it is. They most of them haven't tried it, and until they try it, they don't know what the potential of the technology is, and they don't, they're not as excited as they could be. But once I've never seen somebody who tried VR for the first time and a quality VR device came out and said, that was not that good. Pretty much everybody that has tried Six-Stop VR for the first time, they would come out like, wow, why didn't I try this before? There's so many things I could do with this in my industry. So I was really hoping that movie would do more to publicize the capability and potential of this technology. I think it's done a decent, it did really well in China. In fact, the funny thing was it was the number 1 or number 2 movie that year in China. About 60% of total revenues for that movie globally was in China. So maybe that's one of the reasons why the popularity of VR in China is a little bit higher than maybe in the rest of the world. But I think the movie did have some impact. I know that they just released a new book, and maybe they'll do another movie on it and help to get more awareness. But I do see VR being more and more part of kind of popular culture. You're seeing a lot of TV shows now that are involved in VR. You have Upload and Altered Carbon and Dark Mirror or Black Mirror. All these things are now talking about VR a lot more. So people I think are more and more familiar. I think a lot of it is dystopian, unfortunately. So we need to bring some more positive light to this technology.
So, Alvin, you're a voracious reader. You just posted on Twitter that you would read how many books last year?
I think last year I read around 120 books. So,
how do you have time to do that?
So I had to tell you a secret. When I used to read paper books, I would read about 10 a year, which I feel like was definitely not enough. And I would start a lot that I would never finish. I think a lot of us have that. We probably have a lot of stuff in our shelf that we've read the first 2 chapters. But about probably 6 years ago, I started getting into audiobooks. And I have to tell you, after starting audiobooks, I finish almost every book I start. And now I listen to books in double speed, and it really it works so well. You can finish essentially a book every 2 or 3 days. So that's why I was able to get all these books done, and it doesn't take as much time as you think. Once you start getting the double speed, it just So I know I have friends who listen in triple speed, which I think that's too much. I think you lose a little bit of understanding clarity. But at double speed, most books are most decent books are probably somewhere between 8 and 12 hours. Double speed, you're like 4 or 5 hours. So essentially, if you have I have about a 2-hour commute every day. So you're listening for an hour and a half, 2 hours a day. You can finish a book in 2 or 3 days. So yeah, it's definitely one of the most rewarding part of how I spend my time. So I would highly recommend everybody look into this if you're not using audiobooks to try to do that, because there's so much knowledge out there, so much information, and so much things you can share with your team and your students or your mentees. Once I read books, I always recommend books to my management team, and in fact we have a monthly kind of reading club that I force everybody to read a book, and then once a month we'll have a lunch, and we'll have everybody give their kind of book reports. So and it sounds like back to school, but honestly, initially there was a lot of resistance from my team. Later they all came back and said, I'm really glad you forced me to do this, because I felt like I was too busy. But now that I started reading, I'm doing it on my own more, and it's helping me become a better professional. So and it also gives us a common language as a team. And that's another thing I really like about having common reading, because now we have a shared vocabulary of books that we've read and philosophies of how to, various things, everything from kind of the trends in technology to culture to the psychology of management to blah blah blah. Things that and I'll have the team also recommend books that they'd really like, and they would talk about it. So it gives them a chance to also express themselves. But you have to initially kind of push a little bit, because initially everybody will say, "Oh, I'm too busy to read books. I already have too much stuff going on." But at the end of the day, they will come back and thank you later. So
that's fantastic. So Alvin, we want to go into a question session just in a minute, but I have one more question for you before we open it to the audience for questions. Now you've been sort of along this journey with me, several iterations of trying to do this virtual world society.
Yes.
And of late, of course, we're ramped up and we're on the move. Now's the time. What kind of advice and could you give the virtual world society? What would you think we should be concentrating on in the virtual world society?
We've talked a lot of times about this group, and I really like the philosophy of what you're trying to do, and the goals of trying to reach out to the average family and getting VR out to the family, and getting them to adopt this technology in a way, right? And to influence it as a large societal mission versus corporate missions and about profit. So I think that I totally agree with. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are too busy with their daily lives. Just like they're too busy to go read books, they're too busy to get involved in a lot of nonprofit organizations. I think if there's a way to have the virtual world society be involved in projects that have a more immediate direct impact, and maybe even some level of commercial impact onto partner companies, onto users, then there's multiple reasons for people or for companies to support and get involved. So it's not just about corporate responsibility. It's also about the fiscal responsibility. Right. So I think that's something that maybe we can talk more and see how it's designed to do that at the same time doing good, and at the same time maybe helping partners and the different vendors or volunteers get additional value out of participating. I think that's something, as well as really getting more awareness. I know you've been a great kind of spokesperson for the industry, really getting more people involved so that they can help spread that word in a broader way. Because I think there's only so much one or two or 10 or 100 people can do. So how can we get that membership up more and get more high visibility folks involved to help spread that gospel for you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for that, Alvin. Any other last advice you'd like to give before we open for questions?
I think, just advice to the group is really just keep at it, because it is going to happen. The world will become VR first. It is just a matter of time. You guys are just ahead of the wave, and you guys are trendsetters and pioneers, just like what Tom has been doing. Tom has been doing it for 50, 60 years, and I've been involved in the 30 years. But I think all of you guys are the folks that are going to make this industry mass market, right? So keep doing what you're doing, and keep believing, and keep doing the things that bring the positivity of this technology to the world, versus taking advantage of short-term gains or maybe if you have a choice of making content that can teach people or just make something that is an addictive game, try to do the thing that provides societal value. I guess that would be my advice, because I think there are a lot of content out there that could get people very easily addicted to VR, but it may not be a good thing long term for society. So.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wow. So what we'd like to do now, with your permission, Alvin, is like to invite the audience our family here to ask any questions you might like of Alvin. What we'd like to do is we have about another 15 minutes for those questions, the formalized questions. Then if Alvin, depending on how much time you have, we can unmute folks and you can come up and interact with you directly, depending on how long you stay. Wow. Okay, and I have a couple announcements to make toward the end of the question time too. So Donna, I think we're ready to rock and roll with the question session.
Okay, that's great. So we'll try and get through as many questions as we can. Thank you guys for, most of you know recognize the raise hand button. Just so you know, as I call your name, I'm going to amplify your voice and you'll just need to unmute and then we will be able to hear you. So Chris Watts, there is going to be question number 1. Go ahead.
Great, thanks a lot. Thanks, Alvin. Nice to meet you again. Thanks for being here. You just mentioned education, and that's exactly what I wanted to ask about. I saw that you have a system or program or platform online, a Viveport, and I saw that you have a category for education, for example. Is there something like a program maybe for makers, for creators, to directly get in contact on this special issue? If someone here, for example, I know there are several creators here, do they have someone in your company to talk to Viveport to this special category?
So I think actually you can just go online to Viveport and submit. Any developer can submit, and you get to choose what category you want to be listed in. So I don't think there's any special request needed or approval needed for you to do that. If you need technical assistance, we do have people in all regions that can assist you in terms of both the development as well as access to tools or to understand how to do maybe some joint promotions. If we really like your content, we'll help you feature it and promote it to the rest of the world.
All right. Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks so much, Chris. Okay, Steph, you're up next.
My question is, being a Macer since like 1984, I'm kind of concerned about what Apple is going to do in terms of their equipment coming out, maybe in the near future. Are they going to divide the market to the extent that it will slow things down?
Well, that sounds like a question that may be more suited to asking Tim Cook on it. But I think Apple traditionally has been more of a kind of vertical integrated company. So I would expect that. I don't know, but I would expect they would probably be having a model that's a little bit more similar to what Oculus is doing, where their own hardware only works with their own stores. But I don't know for sure, and so I am not the right person to ask that question.
Can XR be a standard for all companies in the future going forward, though?
Yeah, so I mean, we are involved in the OpenXR consortium, and so so there are definitely standards out there that will allow all devices to share common software. Now, some hardware vendors will still have certain features that are tied to their hardware, which is understandable because everybody needs to have some level of differentiation. So they may have a minimum level of standard compatibility, but then for added, immersiveness or features, they may have their unique SDKs. So I don't know. I can't speak for other vendors, but I know for us, we consistently create hardware and platforms and stores that are cross vendor. So
gotcha. Thank you.
And open. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Steph. Educators in VR's own Daniel has a question.
Thank you very much. Hi, Alvin. Thank you very much. First of all, I wanted to say thank you. Specifically, I'm really encouraged to hear what you said about how HTC has a very different approach to the mid-long-term range for XR as opposed to Oculus. I think a lot of educators are feeling really concerned, I know I am, about how Facebook's strategy with sign-ins with Facebook, it's a real challenge for educators around the world. So to hear that you are actively promoting that is really, really encouraging, and I wanted to thank you and HTC for that. I was most interested in what you said about the usage of VR in China. And obviously news out of China is thin on the ground, if you like. I wonder if you could just say a couple of more words about how is it the same, how is it different? How are Chinese people using VR in the same way as we are here in the West? And what are the differences?
Okay. I think right now probably one of the biggest differences is really the amount of industry use versus consumer use. Over the last year or so, I think the West has started to move to have more industry adoption, but that happened probably 2 or 3 years ago in China. So right now, for our own device sales, I would say 70% plus of our sales go in B2B usage.
Really?
Interesting. Yeah. So where in Western worlds, I still think most of the devices, maybe probably reverse, it'd be 70-30 the other way, are going into consumers, right? So I think that for any real technology to real mass adoption, it actually has to start from business. The first cell phones were business phones. The first computers were business computers. The first cars were businesses buying them. To ship things. So I think that's going to be the case with VR as well. So whichever industry, whichever country adopts it for business first, then they will be able to finance the initial kind of creation of downsizing, of downpricing the product to get to mass scale. At which point, then it can go into the consumer at that price point that everybody is willing to pay or is able to pay. Right. So,
and last follow-on question. Thank you for that. Is there any kind of social VR applications being used by consumers in China, like we're doing here now? Is there that kind of a?
Yeah. So actually, a lot of the same apps are over there as well. VR Chat is very popular there, as well as actually Engage, and so the XR suite that we created last year for essentially collaboration and socialization and remote learning. We've published it, and it's available in China with single sign-on, but they were already available in kind of in separate parts for several years already. So I think applications are very similar. So far, there hasn't been kind of a bifurcation of the kind of the WeChat versus Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp type of a world. We still are fairly united in terms of one set of applications that are across geographic border. I hope we can maintain it that way. So far, there hasn't been any firewalls blocking the VR apps, so I think as long as it's used properly, I guess people are not abusing it, then hopefully we can maintain that where everybody in the world can still talk to each other. Now for Engage, we actually have servers in China and servers in Europe and servers in the US, because there are kind of geographic policies of account management. But at least in terms of cross communication, they can still talk to each other. They just all the data of those people are being stored in their own geographic space.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Doug, you are next up.
Well, thank you very much. Nice talking to you. One question. So right now, about 1.5 billion smartphones are sold in the year, and about 700 million or 70 million VR devices. What year do you think there will be as many VR devices, XR devices sold as smartphones?
Yeah, so I don't know if that will actually ever happen and to that scale, because I think VR devices will have a longer longevity. The reasons that the phones have been selling at this rate is there's a lot of replacement. Kind of every 1 or 2 years, people are replacing their phones. I still actually have my original Vive Pre from 5 years ago, and it still works pretty darn well. Of course, I also have a Vive Pro, I have a Vive Cosmos, I have a Vive Focus Plus, I have both of the Quests, I have an Oculus Rift. So but I keep them, and they all work. Right, and they consist, and they still can run all the apps from before. So I think there won't be as much replacement. So there won't ever probably get to the point where we need to sell a billion and a half devices. Wait, that may not be a bad thing, because there's a lot of waste that's going on. Where I have probably 20 cell phones in my drawer somewhere, and they probably work okay. I still replace them every year, because that's kind of the habit, right? I hope that we will at some point get to a point where our devices will be good enough where we don't need to replace them every year, or maybe even every 5 years. But I think in terms of the real question is, when will the number of users using VR be similar to what XR phone devices are today? I think that will happen within the next 10 years. If we're really lucky, probably 5 to 8 years. But it will definitely happen. And when it happens, the last year or two will happen really, really quickly, just like what happened with the phones, where the first year, I think of the iPhone, they only sold maybe 5 or 10 million units, and then it just really started to take off. But if you think about the cell phone and the smartphones, there was the BlackBerries and the compact iPad Windows phone. These are smartphones that's been happening for a dozen years before the iPhone came out, right? So I think the thing that we've been doing for the last 5-6 years, a lot of people were saying, 2016 was the iPhone moment for VR. I actually don't believe that. I think 2016 or 15, probably the original Motorola what is it? The one, I can't remember what that one's called. No, not the Razr. The big one.
The brick.
The brick.
The brick.
The brick.
The Dynatech. Dynatech.
Exactly. The Dynatech. I think it's the Dynatech moment. And if you think about it, from Dynatech, which was kind of what the Wolves of Wall Street, the movie, that was in the 90s. And then when did it really take off? Was like in the 2007, right? So, and really taking off was probably 2009. So I think that's kind of thing is that what took 20 years in the phone industry will probably take about 10 or 12 in the VR industry. So I think that's why I'm saying it's going to be probably 5 to 10 years for us to get there. But
thank you so much.
Definitely happen.
Have we had the iPhone moment?
No, I don't think we've had the iPhone moment yet. So, but the iPhone moment will be coming in the next 2-3 years, because if you look at all the devices that are coming out, they are getting to that thinner, smaller, higher resolution. The original iPhone also wasn't perfect, right? But it was a completely something that changed the way we interfaced with devices, and it was at a price point and use case usability that the average person could use it. The first Vive and the first Rift were not things that the average person could use, right? You just needed too many things. You had too many hardware requirements, too many wires, So all of that's going to change in the next couple of years with 5G as well, becoming more proliferated. That will also bring the cost down, will make the devices smaller. It will make capability of processing in the cloud better. So less reason for you to change your device, because all the real advances will happen in the network, right? So those are the things that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, can I follow up on the 5G comment? Just real. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
China has a million 5G base stations. Is there more of a strategy on VR is 5G in China versus the US?
Yeah, I think right now 5G. I think 70% of all 5G users in the world are in China right now. So they have about 150 million 5G subscribers. It's crazy, but But I was in a kind of a meeting with all of the carriers and all of the phone manufacturers just about a month or 2 months ago, and everybody's complaining that we have 5G, but it's not bringing us more revenue. The ARPUs are the same. What's the use case? And I keep reminding them, we got to go to XR. We got to get to Cloud XR. We'll do that. Yeah. We'll bring you new use cases, new revenue models, new applications that will drive usage of this network you spend hundreds of billions of dollars building, right? So I think that will happen because initially people built the networks because they had to. Pretty soon they're going to have to figure out how do I make money from this network, and that's when the integration of the two will happen, and it has to happen because they're relying on video is not enough, right? Everybody initially talk, 8K and 4K video, but I don't need that because I have gigabit broadband at home that can bring that 8K 4K video. Now I'm not going to need to have 8K video on my phone. So when would I need 8K video, or when would I need 8K level of quality is in VR.
Right.
So
fantastic.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Okay, we have lots of questions and we're not going to get through them all, but can we try doing just a couple of speed ones so we just get a few people? Echo, I know you've been waiting over 10 minutes. I'm going to give you the megaphone right now. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. Can everyone hear me? Can't hear you.
Not barely.
Hello?
Try it again. Here. I'm going to... Okay, try it again.
Hello?
Oh,
okay, that worked.
Okay, great. Hi, Alvin. Thanks for being here with us.
Hello.
This is so cool. This is my first professional education event, so really awesome.
Welcome.
You guys are doing a great job. Yes. So I just wanted to throw a fun question at you. After you had your very first VR experience and you realized that it was thebomb.com, how did you explain it, your experience, and how did you explain it to your friends and family so they can actually get it and have them click? Because I'm even having trouble explaining to my friends and family at times.
I think it was when I first experienced it was actually in Tom's lab. So that was on a very, very low fidelity device, and but I really saw the potential where it was going to. So I think it's a lot easier to explain now than ever because now you essentially show them all of these movies. You can just tell them it's like Matrix. Except you put on a headset instead of putting a stick in your back and in the back of your head. Right? But I think the best way to explain it is really just to put the device on their head. I think that's the best way and the easiest way, because it is something that is hard to use words to have them have understanding.
Right.
Because it requires a certain level of perspective that the 2D screen doesn't give you. So
right.
Every time if somebody asks, if they ask what's so good about VR, I say, go come over and I'll try it out, and then you tell me. And I never have a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to get a head, or convince them to get their own headset. It's just challenging right now. I'm in Southern California,
let them use yours, right? Have them come over.
Right,
to your
I can
place
mail it
and
to them.
Try.
I'll do that. Thank you.
One quick comment about that. Let's not forget the people who that we could go in 2D, right? So there's a few of us in here today in 2D without a headset, and so sometimes when so just okay, Caitlin, go ahead.
Okay, so I've just loved this whole talk. There's so much that's resonating, and it feels to me like you're pointing toward killer app being connection with other people. And Alvin, I'm curious just to hear what you're looking forward to. Like, what if there's an event coming up? If there's something, just really quick question. But I know you talked about 3 years in the future. But what's in the near future that you might be anticipating and
Well,
looking forward to?
We do have our yearly Vive ecosystem conference in the early part of April, so there will definitely be more news coming out, more information that kind of put a pencil on your calendar, please do join us. I know a lot of, in fact. Tom spoke at our last ecosystem conference, virtual ecosystem conference in last March. So we're going to do it again in April this year. And, we welcome all of you to come and join. And I hopefully will have information that all of you will appreciate.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Caitlin. Better World, I know you've been waiting for more than 10 minutes and we keep kicking you off. So I'm going to try and give you the megaphone, but I think you're having a problem. I am so sorry. Come up after because I cannot amplify your voice. VR lady, go ahead.
Hi, Alvin. I work with a lot of I work with a lot of schools all over the United States, and I want to know if you have a standalone headset coming out anytime soon that I may want to wait for before I have them purchase headsets for the fall.
Okay. Well, as I tell people when they ask this question, I am not allowed to talk about future products, but I will say, please come to our ecosystem conference and you might find some interesting information there. So that's all I can say.
Put myself on the line and say yes. For Alvin's sake. But lovely.
Okay, Tom, can you let me know what we have a few more people. Okay, or would you?
Well, let's do this. Let's let me sort of take the podium for just a few minutes. Just to announce some things, and then we can turn it back to open questions like we have, or people can come up afterwards. I don't know how long we can stay in this particular forum, but one of the things that is coming up, and I sort of mentioned when. Let me move things around here so I can get to my slides. Next 2 weeks from now, we're going to have an amazing experience. We're really getting serious in the Virtual World Society of starting dialogue with our members and with friends and supporters to get the direction we and helping us build our roadmap of where we're going to go this in 2021 and beyond. We have some really big objectives. We're trying to shoot for being a $20 million organization in the next few years, and that's not about the money. It's about what we're able to do in terms of reaching out to people and helping lift mankind, which is what our mission is all about. So part of this journey is involved with you, and because you're in our family, and actually the most important part of the family. And so Caitlin is going to guide us through this exercise of where we're beginning to identify these things that resonate with you. Caitlin, do you want to just take 30 seconds and say what you'd like for folks to do to get ready for that?
Sure. Well, I think just looking at the visual here, the words that really occur to me at this stage are agency and action, because I think all of us, we have such exciting backgrounds and abilities, but sometimes we don't even know that each other exist. Does that make sense? We're in a network and we want to activate for good. And there's so many projects to get involved in, things that point to the values that Alvin has been talking about and that Tom stands for. So we're stoking fires. This is the beginning of 2021. It represents a lot of hopes and dreams taking action. And in terms of accessibility, we're going to have a lot of different events over the course of the year, and some of them will be in places like AltSpace. Some will be in Engage. Some will be in spatial technology using different XR tools. And this first one is going to be on Zoom. And I know that might be a surprise. Like you might say, "Oh, Zoom, I'm having Zoom burnout." Well, I can tell you, we're gonna do a lot of different exercises to keep your senses inspired and keep people collaborating. The point is to have at least, as many people who want to be in that space as can access it, and then we'll branch off from there to other immersive environments. So there's a bit.ly up there with the link. VWS Community 1 is the extension. That's also on our website. And just encourage you to feel free to reach out to me personally if you have any questions in advance about it. I think that covers just about everything. I'm happy and excited about this next step.
You bet. Caitlin, thanks so much.
Sure thing. Thanks, everybody. And thank you, Alvin, for inspiration today. Yeah.
By the way, if you want to get in touch with Alvin, this is your contact information. He's so prominent and out there. I don't think you'd have any problem doing that. But Alvin is it's been just a wonderful pleasure having you here, and this will be I expect a repeat performance. We'll have you back, especially when you're back in the USA again. And so thanks. Let's give Alvin a round of applause here and some emojis and things like that.
Thank you guys. Appreciate all of your support. And I actually want to thank you, Tom, for introducing me to VR and getting me involved in this space and and with the Virtual World Society. So I think we should all give a round of applause to our host and the godfather of VR.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. It takes a village, to raise a kid, right?
For sure. Actually, before we close, I was wondering if I can actually ask a question of the audience.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you guys have been asking me about things. I actually would like to hear from the folks who are using VR every day. What else can we do as HTC Vive to help you? What can we do in the products? What can we do in the programs that can help you be more successful? So what new features, what new programs, what new stores? Let me know. Paul?
Okay, just one sec. What we'll do is we'll just unmute and Alvin will call on you, okay? So if you guys could just hold your questions until Alvin calls on you, but I've just unmuted everyone in the room. So appreciate your courtesy.
So yeah, I guess I'll answer that one. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So a suggestion I would like is obviously have the price point come down more so. And I'm actually looking into some augmented reality things too. So I'm working with a man here in Seattle who's over Heat Tech Laboratories. He's got a nonprofit, and he's actually developing a children's book, and he wants to turn a children's book into an augmented reality book. So just from inside the book, and then so that would be two things: lower price point, augmented reality, and then of course on the development side, you have more people developing in Unity or Unreal or whatever. So.
Okay. Yeah. So the good news is as I mentioned earlier, with the Wave system, we will enable more and more lower cost vendors to get into the industry. So companies like Aichi and Pico and Shadow Creator, these are all partners of our Vive Wave program, and they are definitely releasing high quality products that are much lower cost. I think as HTC, unfortunately, we do a lot of R&D, and we have a lot more kind of base costs. So it's hard for us to get to that kind of bottom dollar price. But we're always going to try to create products that are high quality first, and then let the other vendors who can reach a different price point. And in terms of AR, is what we actually are getting companies like Nrio and actually Shadow also has an AR product. So they're going to be part of the Wave program as well. So there'll be cross compatibility between all of the apps. So absolutely. Yes, Daniel.
I have a very specific feature request, and that is voice memos and voice messages. I don't like typing. I don't like taking my headset off. So what I'd love is just as a utility for either HTC that I can press a button, I can record my voice for 5 or 10 seconds. It mutes me from obviously other people hearing me, and I can keep that on a list.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Back afterwards, or I could even send it to you or send it to somebody else. Because typing doesn't work yet in VR. So if you can do that, I'll be your friend forever.
I will add that to my request list. All right, thank you.
Plus one that.
Okay.
Okay, be sure to raise
Chris?
hands. Raise hands, please.
Chris?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Chris what?
Maybe that too, Chris Watts. Okay, thanks.
Ah.
Yeah, just wanted to say, I know that you're probably already in there, but I think that something like OpenXR as a base is so important, and if you can help to push it more and more to make it solid, because we need one place as a developer to go to instead of having 10,000 different types of,
For sure. We're already doing. We're one of the active members of that. So don't worry. In fact, that's part of what we're also doing with the GSXR in China as well, is to help that.